What is up, YouTube? Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a rundown on my off-grid project that I'm about to take on. So I've had this property now for, well over 30 years. So I'm down here in southern Ohio. I'm on 30 acres. This was actually my father's property. And he passed away in 1988. And I've pretty much owned it ever since. Now, where we're walking back through is actually my driveway. This actually right here used to be a field. This actually right here used to be a field. And the driveway used to be lined with pine trees. There used to be a pond here as well. But before my dad passed away, unfortunately, he shot the beaver that used to dam up the pond. And once he shot the beaver, the pond started marshing, getting pretty crappy. And then that easement that I just showed you, that road back there, that's not actually a road, that's an easement. When they put that easement in, they actually had dug out my underground spring and it got plugged off and hasn't worked since. So I used to use this property regularly to hunt, and there's also a pond on the back 40 that is a stocked pond. You can literally dry hook fish out of it and catch stuff. I'm not much of a fisherman, but my buddies do. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to move down here, and everything is so overgrown. I actually have a forestry mulcher being delivered today that I'm going to rent to take some of this out and open it up. The reason that I'm doing that is because I actually have a cabin back here that a tree fell on, probably about 10 years ago. And I'm going to take you back there and show you where it's at. But I can't get a roll-off company to come back here because the driveway is too narrow. Although it looks broad now because there's no leaves and everything like that. It's, as you can tell, pretty soft. But in the spring and the summer, it's so overgrown that I can barely get my pickup truck back here. Now, I've been down here for the last month and a half with my commercial zero turn, and I got a little bit of it opened up. I mean, when I first came down here, you couldn't even, well, you're looking at grass and leaves right here, but you couldn't even see that because it was waist high all the way around. This was a really primitive camp, and it has been for many, many years. And just to give you an idea, you can't really see it because of the leaves, but there's some slate stone there with a bag and pulley system. That's actually where we hang our showers. Everything down here's, the bags anyway, are solar heated shower bags. And the building used to run off of generators. But it's no longer here. So I actually had a camper down here after a tree fell on the cabin. And ironically enough, it lasted down here for about 2 years, and a branch fell through the roof on that, actually from this tree right here. The camper was right about that flat spot right there, and over the wintertime, obviously a branch had snapped off and went through the roof. By the time I got down here, with the melt, the snow, the rain, in the springtime, the camper was totally just destroyed. So there's what's left of my cabin. I actually still have the blueprints for it. It was a Quonset hut, a dome, for those of you that don't know what that means. There is actually slate stone underneath all these leaves that goes all the way around that building. Now, this building might have been able to withstand the tree. The problem is, when my father built it, he wasn't a very, let's say, carpenter friendly. I mean, he did a great job building the building. He had a couple of my uncles and some of my older cousins down here. And when they built it, they did a good job. Problem was they couldn't figure out how to shingle it, which it actually called for shingles. So my dad came up with this ingenious idea to fiberglass the entire building, which you can probably see right there is some fiberglass. And then over top of the fiberglass, he put tar. So what happens when you totally seal off wood? It starts to rot from the inside. That's exactly what happened. So when the tree collapsed on it, the building was already soft and spongy. He had built this building in, well, I'm going to say 83, 84, and at the time that he passed away, I was only 14 years old. My mother didn't come down here because, well, she just wasn't an outdoorsy person. Really about the only person in my family that was my father and myself, but I was too young to drive down here, and nobody would bring me down at 14 years old. So over the years, I did come down, tried to keep the building in the best possible condition that I could, but eventually it was just getting so soft on the inside from the moisture, from the building just holding moisture and not being able to breathe, that, you couldn't even hang your hammock across one side of the building to the next, and it would just pull the boards right off the wall. So when the tree fell, the whole building went down. Basically, it folded like a deck of cards. I do still have the blueprints for it. Underneath of it, there's actually a concrete pad with a drain, because, there was showers that you could take inside. It wasn't actual running water or anything like that, but you could hang a shower bag in there, and take a shower, and it would drain to the outside. So it's already concreted, and my game plan is to get this building out as soon as I get this driveway opened up. Once I get the driveway opened up, I can pour some stone. Once I get some stone poured, I can have a roll-off dumpster brought down here. And once I get the roll-off dumpster down here, I will rent an excavator and end up getting an excavator with a thumb, just scooping it up, throw it in the trash. I had actually thought about just digging a hole and burying it, because the property where I'm at is actually 30 acres of solid woods. Minus the part up here in the front, past those two pine trees, that was the only open section. It was still encased by trees, but the fields, you would pull into the driveway through a wooded line, and then it would open up into the fields. So you were still totally secluded. Problem is, life caught up with me. A couple bad relationship mistakes. Wasn't able to get down here, take care of the property like I wanted to. And with work and everything else, it just got a little bit out of hand. And the property had overgrown itself. Believe it or not, underneath those leaves, like I said, they're slate stone. But when I first started coming down here about a month and a half ago, like I said, everything down here was waist high. So every place that you see that is mowed and you can actually see ground and leaves, that was actually waist high. And you would not believe, we all know that there's black widows in Ohio, but you would not believe how many black widows I had found down here in brush piles like this. I'd be mowing with my zero-turn mower, come across a big, huge spider web, and there's a black widow. Got up in the morning, there was black widows all over my tent. Now, I've had this property, like I said, for well over 30 years, and I have never seen so many black widows down here. Honestly, I've never seen any until this year. And I guess they're starting to grow in numbers down in southern Ohio substantially. So that's another reason why I plan on forestry mulching back as much as I can to get it away from the campsite. I'm sure well of you are aware of the fact that spiders don't really like to cross open areas. And before, when I was down here and the property was well maintained 15 years ago, I used to come down here every month. It literally looked like my backyard. There wasn't hardly any bugs down here, but it has gotten so bad with the black widows, hornets' nests everywhere. It's just, I've come to the conclusion that I've got to do something. This actually used to be an old shit house. Totally rotted, fell apart. I just kicked it over a few weeks ago when I was down here because it was just in such bad shape that, well, I wouldn't want to sit on it. Wouldn't want to take my chances. There's some old logging roads that go through this property as well. You see there's a lot of down trees, and this is something that I used to keep up on pretty well. But this, I'm not going to walk it, obviously. But this trail goes down to where a creek used to be, and it has dried up since the pond has dried up, and the beaver is no longer there to keep things flowing. Ironically enough, without exaggeration, I had actually called the Wildlife Foundation and tried to talk to them about getting a beaver brought down here so I could hopefully maybe try and reestablish my pond, because there is a hill that runs off to it, and there is a drain pipe that cuts through the easement for a runoff, but it just doesn't want to seem to hold water anymore. It kind of just flows through, and it's not really doing enough to keep the creek flowing. So I'd actually called the Wildlife Foundation to see if they would bring down a beaver, and they kind of laughed at me. I guess that's kind of unheard of because they're such a nuisance. But I thought that it would be a magnanimous idea. Obviously, they disagreed with me. But, yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys a tour of the place. I'm going to start doing some videos of that. I'll still be doing some four-wheeler and side-by-side videos. My main project right now is going to be working on this property, trying to get it back to where it's somewhat sustainable. My plan is to sell my house in northern Ohio. It's paid for. And when I rebuild this, I'm actually going to build it bigger, because it is 22 feet around and it was 14 high with a loft. I'd kind of like to build it a little bigger in diameter and also a little bit in height, because I plan on living down here. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm looking at one of those tiny shed houses that everybody's converting from a shed to a tiny house, just to put maybe right here for the time being, so I have something. I don't want to buy a camper. Those are just a waste of money, literally. Just rot boxes on wheels. And when everything's said and done, if I put a shed, a tiny house here, I wouldn't go totally crazy with it because I wouldn't be living in it. But it would be a good hunting cabin for my friends, or, an in-law suite, or, friends or family if they wanted to come down and do some camping. But that might be my temporary solution until I actually get something built down here. But, yeah, I'm just waiting on the forestry mulcher, and as soon as it gets here, I'm going to start tearing some shit up. Once I get everything done, I'll probably do a reboot video, show you guys how everything turned out, because pretty much all of this is going to be gone. That stuff right there, I'm going to get as much of the small stuff as I can. The rest of it, I don't want to tear up too much, because that's actually poplar, and it would be good to build log lean-tos, maybe even a small log cabin or something. Never built one. Wouldn't mind trying my hand at it. So I don't really want to tear up too much of the big trees, but all of this undergrowth and these saplings are going to be gone. And like I said, the sad part about it is none of these used to be here. This is 7 years. In 7 years of neglect, all of these saplings have grown. I mean, obviously not the bigger ones, but the stuff that you're seeing, like this one here, these littler ones that are, 10 or 15 feet high, that are a couple inches around, that's actually fresh, from 7 years of not coming down here. All of these bushes had grown. All of these briar bushes have grown. And you can look out through there and pretty much see all the small saplings that's out there. And I know it's hard to imagine, but this actually used to be a field 7 years ago. So Anyway, guys, stay with me. Like and subscribe. There's going to be more videos coming. And yeah, keep your eyes open. Thanks, guys.